Well, yeah.
Hey, man. All right. How's everybody's weekend or week going? Everybody staying warm? Anybody go sunbathing recently? It was like perfect rooftop weather this whole past week. There's still snow out there. I'm really like upset about that. What are you saying? Yeah, perfect rooftop weather for snowing. Frosty's like out at Dacha with a boot. Like, man, this is great.
Is that your favorite bar?
No, but I guess I mentioned it a lot, don't I? Yeah, I'm sorry. No, it's not. I do really like that bar, but and this is gonna make me sound super dumb. My fiance and I started going there like before it got really, really big. So I'm like a bitter like old timer. So, no, don't even. But so yeah, everybody's staying warm. Sorry, class got canceled last time, but I think it's actually going to work out for the better because now you guys have the weekend to work on your labs, right? If you guys want to. What did you guys think of the homework on objects and classes? You guys liked it? You guys loved it? You guys really loved it?
I can do without more card related things.
Oh man, you're gonna love the lab. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be your favorite. Okay, noted. Fewer card exercises. It'll be the last one that we do for the class. How about that? So today we're gonna do a very, very short lesson, and then you guys are gonna get straight into your lab. This is more or less what we're gonna do for the day. We'll have 2 quick mini lessons, like I've said, and then the whole rest of the class is dedicated to your lab. And I'll talk about the lab, and we'll go over it when we get to it. Cool. So today we're talking about something called NPM, which we're going to need for our lab, because we're going to use an NPM package, or a third-party package, to build out our lab. The other thing we're going to talk about is organizing our code base, specifically breaking out a large application into multiple files. Because we don't really want to manage a whole application in a single JavaScript file that's like 1,000 lines long. That sounds terrible. So the first thing is NPM. NPM stands for Node Package Manager, and we all downloaded it on the first day when we downloaded Node. Grab some donuts, you guys. Yeah, all you. Go crazy. NPM is a command line utility for us to manage dependencies in our application and install them and uninstall them and update them. For project dependencies, I just said that. Cool. So what's a dependency? A dependency when we're building out an application is code that we did not write, but that our application depends on in order to run. So if we're building an application, whether it's large or small, we're often not necessarily going to want to write every single line of code that is going to make our application complete, build out every feature. We're going to take shortcuts and use code that other people have written. We do that by people bundle up their code into packages, and then we download those packages into our projects, and we use them. You can also write your own packages that other people can use. This makes our lives a lot easier, our jobs as developers a lot easier, because we don't have to write every single line of code for mundane tasks or like repeatable tasks. But it can lead to some issues. I don't know if you guys remember last year, the whole left pad issue. Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I said left pad? No? Okay, that's fine. So there was, there used to be a package, it might be back on NPM, called left pad. And all it did was take any number of strings and add padding to the left side of the string to make sure they were all the same length. So you could have a space character, you could have 0, anything like that. And then all your strings would print out prettily and all be the same length. This package was written by a very, very, very prolific developer who had something like 600 packages on NPM that he written, and they were all used very frequently. But left pad in particular was used by like a ridiculous number of people. The author of the package got into a really big fight with the people at NPM because one of his packages was, I forget the name of it actually now, but a name that like may or may not have been trademarked. So they told him to take it down. He didn't want to, so they deleted the package on him. So he deleted all of his packages, including left pad. And then that morning, like basically every application went down. They relied on left pad, including Facebook, Twitter, like all these big applications that relied on left pad as dependency. They all went down. So that's not gonna happen to us, most likely. It's not. But it's something to be aware of. There's a trade-off, right? Like it is much faster to use somebody else's code at the same time. It's code that you didn't write. So you can't really like guarantee that it's well written, that it's fast, that it's secure, or that it'll be around forever. Yeah, on your local one, but when you are releasing an application to production, you often re-download and reset up your environment every time you do a deploy, every time you do a release. So what happened was, like Basecamp, wherever, did a deploy that morning and rebuilt their whole application, including downloading all these NPM packages. And this one wasn't there, so their application build broke. It's a great question. Cool. So let's actually see it in action. I'm gonna come here to the terminal. I'm in the JS folder for this class. Everyone should do a git push, git merge. What is it? Oh. Git pull something. Yeah. Oh, what is it, man?
Git pull upstream master.
There it is. Yeah, git pull upstream master. Everybody do a git pull upstream master if you have not already. And I am going to go into the 06 lab directory. I'm in the folder for our lab class 06. And I'm going to go into this exercises folder. So cd exercises. And if I ls, all there is an exercise.md file. You can follow along there or just follow along with what I'm doing. Cool. So we should already have NPM installed. All right. We downloaded on the first day when we downloaded Node. What NPM is going to do for us is manage the dependencies in our project. So kind of like when we want to use Git to manage a project, we first have to initialize or get started with Git, and then we have to keep updating it. It's very, very similar when we're talking about NPM. So in order to initialize a new project with NPM, we type the command npm, npm, there we go, init. Don't push enter yet. When I push enter, I'm going to basically fill out a form in the command line. It's going to ask me, I think, 6 or 7 questions. And what that's going to do is build out a file, which is called package.json, which is where NPM is going to manage all the dependencies for our application. Anytime we add one or delete one, it's going to update that package.json file to reflect whatever our current dependencies are. Okay? Now hit enter. Ba, 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 ba. Cool. So the first question is name. It's giving me a default for all of these questions. If I want to just hit enter a bunch of times, I can do that, and I'll just accept whatever default they've got. And the default is the name of this folder, which is exercises, which is fine. So I'll hit enter. The next is version. I'll hit enter there too. Description. If I want to describe my app or my my application, I can do that here. Add a quick description. Something like that. An entry point. This is going to be the entry point for our application, the JavaScript file from which all other JavaScript files will originate. We're going to go with index.js. Test command. If we're doing test-driven development, this is what where we would set up our test command, but we can edit the package.json file later. If we're using Git, we can add the repository link here so that other people who are using this project can find out where the original repository is. I'm just going to leave it blank. Keywords, so that people can find our project when they're searching for it on the NPM registry. And then author, where I put my name. There's a lot more questions than I thought it was going to be. License, there we go, we're done. All right, cool. And now we have a draft version of our JSON file. And if I hit enter, it will build that file, or write that file. And this is exactly what it will look like. Okay? Cool. Now we're done. Sweet. Did everybody run npm init and answer all those questions? All you have to do is hit enter a bunch of times. Cool. So here I am. And now I have this package.json file that I just mentioned. If I cat package.json, it'll print it out for me. Cat is a command to just print something to the console. And we're now good to go. NPM is all set up for us to start adding dependencies to our project. All right, so how do we do that? Well, to add a package, we're going to do, or it's rather to install a package, we're going to do npm install. And then we're going to pass flags to this command, as well as the package name that we want to install, in order to get that package locally and update our package.json file. That's weird. So npm install, the name of the package. We're going to download a package called swapcase. It will take a string and swap the casing of that string. So it's all lowercase, make it all uppercase, or vice versa. And then I'm going to do --save. --save is going to update my package.json file, reflecting that this is now a project dependency.
How did you download that cat package.json?
How did I, what's that? Oh, cat is, I don't know, since you're on Windows, I don't know if it'll be the same thing. Cat is a terminal command to print out the contents of the file.
Where is it?
It's part of your command. It might not be part of yours because you're on Windows. It should be part of Git Bash, but I actually don't know.
It does work in Bash on this.
It does? Perfect. That's
So
what
like where is package.json?
Oh, if you ran npm init and then hit yes to all those questions, then npm wrote this package.json file. We're here in the exercises folder, which is where I ran npm init. And so that's where I would have written the package.json file. Great. Do you mind getting help with Christine? Perfect.
Yes, is needed?
Sorry?
Yes, is needed?
Like 7 or 8.
Oh.
I thought it was only 5 or 6, but then it ended up being a lot more than that. There were some options that I forgot about. If you don't want to sit there and hit enter a bunch of times, rather than run npm init, you can run npm init-y. The -y flag will just accept all the defaults. Next time I'll start with that. Okay. So npm install, this is going to install a package to this folder. This is the name of the package that we're going to install. --save is going to update my package.json. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to run. Boom. There we go. So there we go. This is npm downloading this package into this folder and updating my package.json file. So I'm going to clear the screen. And I'm going to ls. We now have this node modules folder. If I ls that node modules folder, we see Swapcase, the package that we just installed, and then two others. Where do we think these two others came from? Yeah. So Swapcase depends on these two packages in order to work. So when we install Swapcase, it looked in the package.json file of Swapcase and installed all the dependencies that are listed there. Oh, okay. NPM, so the big, has anybody heard of Yarn, the package manager? Whoa. Man, that was a little scary. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, oh man, I'm looking out for you. Okay. Has anybody heard of Yarn? No. Yarn is Facebook's version of NPM. And the big argument for Yarn is that it's deterministic. So if all of us run Yarn install or whatever the command is on a package.json file, we'll all get the exact same output. Which is not the case, unfortunately, with NPM. So you probably have those, but they're probably in the Swapcase folder, as opposed to in the node modules folder like mine are. So something to be aware of. In practicality, at least for us, it doesn't matter. Like you have these file or packages somewhere, and Swapcase should work. There. So we've got that node modules folder. Let's look at our package.json file. We now have this dependencies object in our JSON file, which lists Swapcase and then the current version that we just downloaded. Pretty cool, huh? What makes this cool, or where this will really be cool, is I can save, like commit my package.json file, push it up to GitHub, and then one of you can clone the repository or fork it, clone it down locally, and then run npm install, and any dependencies listed here will be installed on your machine. That's really where this is useful. And then we'll all have the same set of packages. We'll all be able to run this application that we're about to start building, etc. Cool. Okay. So, if you're interested, where did Swapcase come from? Where's that code stored? Was anybody curious about that?
I was wondering.
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is here. npmjs.org is the npm registry. It's where all of the packages are stored and downloaded from. So we can also search for packages here. So we can search for Swapcase. We should, there it is. This is the package that we just downloaded with the documentation on it. It has a GitHub link, so we can open up the GitHub repo for this if we want to make changes or if we want to read the code. It's got a file README, so we can see how to use it, etc.
Does Node set rules for like its packages so that you can only have certain dependencies? Because if for like every package you're downloading, it has certain dependencies, then multiple other packages could have the same ones and just visually messy.
Yeah, so multiple packages that you're downloading, relying on the same package or on different versions of the same package. Yeah, and that's kind of a weakness of the NPM. NPM, I don't think it will download the same package more than once, unless, I'm not sure what it would do if you had different versions. So if I built a package that relied on Swapcase version 1, and you built a package that relied on swap case version 1.1.2. And Chris here is trying to build out the coolest app in the world, and he downloads your package and he downloads mine, he might end up with two. I don't know, guys. He might end up with two versions of Swapcase because of that. Sweet. Oh, there we go. All right. Yeah, to answer your question. There we go. Cool. Okay. So npm install -- save the name of the package. That's the important command to remember. There are variations on that flag. For instance, you can have different kinds of dependencies in an application. The most common are development dependencies and application dependencies. So a development dependency is one that I'm going to use on my machine as I'm building out the application, but that I don't want to ship to production. Whereas an application dependency is one that I want to use in production. It's something, it's actual functionality that my application relies on. NPM has a way of managing these with different flags. So -- save will be a dependency that I will release to production, whereas -- save - dev is one that will only be a development dependency.
-- save - dev.
Yep. All right. Now, if you run npm install without that flag, you'll still get the package, but your package.json file will not be updated. So if you then commit this package.json file and push it up, and your coworker downloads it and runs npm install, you're not going to get that package. And the application or your code is not going to work because some dependency is not being met. It's not there. They don't have any way of knowing really that you need it unless you Slack them. Hey, you got to download this other thing. Or you can run it with -- save and update your package.json file, and then all would be good.
If you forget to do like save down?
Yeah, if you forget to do -- save, npm is not going to update your package.json file. Cool. If you download a dependency and then decide that you don't want it or don't need it anymore, you can delete it through npm. You can uninstall it. And the command is npm uninstall. And the flags are the same. So if you want to update your package.json file, you would do npm uninstall -- save swap case. And it's important to note that the order of these is not important. So that and we'll have the same result. I think I did it like this before, but either works. Same with the install. Yeah.
So where is the swap / case? Where is that being stored? Is that being stored in the JSON file, or where are you installing it?
This node modules folder.
It's in the node. It's in that folder.
Yeah. So if I ls node modules, this is what I get. I get swap case as well as lowercase and uppercase, which are two other npm packages. You might just have swap case.
Oh yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Is that project specific, or will that all projects?
So this will be project specific. Every project will have its own package.json file. Is that what you mean? Yeah. Every project will have its own project.json file. And these are installed here, but not globally. If you're coming from another packaging system, from another programming language, a lot of times packages are installed globally. That's not the case here. You can install packages globally, but that's discouraged in JavaScript and Dev. Instead, we install these locally. Yeah.
So when we pull someone else's code, the package.json will come with it, or we still need to do npm install?
Yep. Nope, it'll come. You'll get the package.json file. The convention is to create what's called a gitignore file. So this is a file for Git basically what you want to ignore in this folder. And what you would do, is in this file, add that node modules directory. And then, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. And then that node modules folder that we saw there would not get committed into our Git repository. But every record of every package that our project depends on would be stored in this package.json file. So when I commit this node modules folder will not be part of that repository, but the package.json file will. So if somebody else comes and starts working on this project, they can run npm install, and npm will go through the package.json file and find every dependency that's listed in there and download those into their own node modules folder.
So the only thing that they need to do is to do npm install locally on their project.
Exactly, yeah. All right. Okay. So, yeah.
So when if you open the swap/case file, there's also a package.json file in that. So there could be multiple dependencies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's every time I step on the wire. I think you figured that out. Yeah, so let's actually go in there. So cd node modules, cd swap case, ls. Yeah. So they have their own package.json file. And I think if we cat that, we'll see a ton of stuff, including, I don't see dependencies here. Here we go. So dependencies and dev dependencies. These are the dependencies that I was listing before. We're talking about, if you do npm install --save dev, it'll save them here. Whereas --save will save them here. And so when we install swap case, npm looks at these dependencies and installs these two. As Miriam pointed out, one of two things is going to happen. These are going to get installed into our node modules folder, or they're going to get installed into a node modules folder in this directory. Okay. How do we feel about this all so far? It's all been pretty fast. It's all pretty short, right? Yeah.
Talk about this on locally and what is it? Local to your project.
Yeah, local to your project.
Does it depend on the folder you install it, or does it depend on its how you call it that makes it install or makes it being used locally?
Yeah. So the like local or where it's going to be coming from is going to be relative to where your package.json file is. But any other project that I build anywhere on this machine, on this laptop, is not going to have a reference to that package.json file that we built out, or any of those packages that we downloaded through it. So
But the same master folder.
yeah, the swap case package is installed here, and I can use it here in this folder, but not anywhere else, unless I download it there.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Ruby, packages are called gems. Ruby is a server-side programming language. Packages are called gems, and when you install a gem, it gets installed globally. So you can use it on any other project, that same gem. With Node and JavaScript, that's the opposite. You can install a package globally with npm install -g. This will install it globally, but there are only a couple of packages that you'll do this with. By far and away, you'll install them locally to your project. So yeah, if you install them globally, it's less space on your laptop. Here I probably don't have multiple copies of the swap case, but Express is a package, very popular package for building out servers. I'm sure if I go through my machine, I have 10 different copies of it. But the reason we do this is for version control. So we all know that we're all working with the same version of Express here. I wasn't even anywhere near. Yeah, that's right, man. What is this? We'll just stand over here. Clearly, like, me and the computer are having some issues today. We'll just leave it all stand over here. Yeah, so with the Ruby solution and GEMS, when they're installed globally, it's less space on your machine. But it's possible that we're building an application and you're using an older version of a Ruby gem, or I'm using an older version of a gem, and we would have to manage this. This way we know. Because the version is determined in the package.json file. So when I run npm install on your project, we both are working with the same version of that dependency. Okay. What do I do? What command do I run to start a new project with npm? What was it?
Int.
Yeah, npm init. Perfect. That's absolutely right. npm init. What is npm init going to do for me? Yeah, exactly. What is the package.json file for? What do we use it for? Yeah, absolutely. Managing our dependencies, determining what versions, all that stuff. How do I install a new package?
npm install.
Yeah, npm install. Yeah. If I just run npm install swap case, what will happen? Put on.
npm install swap case.
Yeah. That's all I run. npm install swap case, enter.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Someone else.
It doesn't list it as dependencies in package JSON, so if someone
Exactly.
else downloaded from your GitHub, they will.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. It'll install the package locally, but it will not update your package.json file. So you won't, other people won't be able to do it. Whoever don't do the work.
If you just want to use it interactively, you still do npm install package.
Yes. You can run that anywhere on your computer, and npm will install, like, create a package.json file and run, install the package there. Which is not great, but you don't want to do that in the root directory of your computer. That would be bad. But, I mean, it wouldn't be bad, but it just make your root directory quiet. Okay. What does -- save do? When I run npm install with -- save.
What save it saves the dependency, but it's
Where?
like trans.
Where is it saving the dependency?
On the site.
In your project?
In our package.json file. There it is. Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's going to update our package.json file. Cool. And then the last one is npm uninstall. What's npm uninstall going to do?
Uninstall the package.
Yep, remove it from our package.json file. And if we pass the flag, it'll update our package.json. Sorry, remove the package from our node modules directory. There we go. And if we pass a flag to it like -- save, it'll update our package.json file to reflect that that is no longer a dependency in our project. Is that better or worse?
As long as the fun row isn't on.
There we go. These ones are controlled by the middle light switch.
That doesn't make sense.
I don't know, maybe it does. Okay, so that's, no, it's not. Okay, so that's it as far as NPM goes. You're going to need this for your lab because you're going to install a package called prompt, which is how you're going to take user input through the command line. It's a package that makes that really easy. So you have to create a package.json file, npm install, prompt, -- save, and then do it again. All right. All right. So the next thing that we have to talk about before we jump into our lab is breaking out our file into multiple are breaking out our project into multiple files. There we go. For the last couple of homework assignments, how long, just out of curiosity, did people's JSON or JavaScript files get? Did anybody like break 100 for any of the past exercises? No? Yeah. Okay. All right. The point is they got long, right? They got kind of long. You have to scroll forever just to get down to the bottom where you're doing your class or whatever. I don't know. There are a lot of reasons for why we want to break our program up into multiple files. One of which is certainly for our own convenience. It makes it a lot easier to manage all this code. But the other is sort of clarity. What we would maybe want to do is take our deck class and put it in deck.js, where we define that class. Or take our card class and put that in card.js. And then in one file, pull those other files in and then use the card and deck class. Well, we can do that with JavaScript. So let's see, I'm back here in our exercises file folder. I'm going to create a file called index.js. And then I'm going to create another one called one.js. Then I'm going to open this up in Atom. Index.js, one.js. I'll put these side by side. And then we have to zoom in a bit so we can all see. Cool. There we go. So create index.js, create one.js. And then we'll be good to go.
You go back to your terminal for 1 second.
Oh, absolutely. Is everybody done? Has everybody done that? Yeah?
Oh, side by side. Sorry.
How do I get inside right when I run LS? Oh, in Atom like this. I drag them. So normally when you open them, they're like this. And then if you grab this tab and move it, you can kind of see these grayed out boxes for where you can do that. I think there's a short command, but I never bothered to learn it. I just do this. Yeah. Okay. So in one.js, I'm going to create a function. And this function is going to be called one. And all it's going to do is console.log one. Just like that. That's all. Okay. Now, we've worked with other files before, right? Last class, we imported a JSON file into our program and used that object. Does everybody remember that? Maybe?
Yes.
Yeah. How did we do that? How did we get that JSON file into our file, our current file? We passed, we used the path. Yeah, what function did we use? Yeah, require. So over here in index, what I want is to bring this one function over here into my index.js file. So we use require, right? Something like var one equals require one.js, right? We'll do that. But last time we did something like var data equals require data.json or something, right? Oops, what did I just do? There we go. So var1 equals require JS. And now, who thinks this is going to work? It's okay. Raise your hand. Yeah. Is this going to work? Are people suspicious because I'm asking? Yeah? Okay, that's fair. Okay. So I'm going to run node index.js. And one is not a function. I defined a function called one in the other file, right? Why is one not a function? Our path worked. Here, let's try this. I've moved this call to our one function back into the one.js file. And now I'm going to go back to the terminal. I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to run node index.js. Right? What happened? Oh, I forgot to save. Yeah. There we go. Boom, it worked. We console logged 1. Yeah. So here in one.js, I'm defining this one function and then calling it. And then over here in index.js, I'm importing that one file.
What if you just,
What if I what?
I was gonna say if you just use a variable, it's not that function lives in that variable,
Here or here?
in index, all the same way.
Next. What if I use a variable here in index.js?
Yeah, so if you're like not logging in one.js, then you do a console log of just one without the parentheses. But I don't do that.
Let's find out what this does, actually. I'm not sure. Ooh, weird. Object. We got an object back, an empty object back, no less.
Because one is the variable, it's pulling the variable above, which is what's the call and so it's
Yeah, this one here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what require here is doing is taking this file and pulling it in here, the scope of this file, pulling it in here and then running that scope. Almost like a function call. So that's why one prints out. But one, that's not really what we want. And two, that's not really all that useful. We're not going to want to define a bunch of stuff in here and then have to run it here when we want to use it here, right? Like what we want is to be able to define this function here, and then in index.js define when we're going to call one, the function. And there's a way to do that. The way to do that is with something called module.exports, which we haven't really talked about. But when we talked about the command line and running for passing arguments into a file from the command line, we talked about process.argv, right? And that was like the scope for the current file. Does everybody kind of vaguely remember that? It's okay if you don't. Module.exports, or rather, let's look at module. How about that? I'm going to console this out, and I'm going to console.log just module. Module, there we go. I'll come back to the command line, clear the screen, and run it. So I've logged this module object, whatever that is. And this is what I get back. This module is referring to our current file, the scope of our current file, as an instance of this module class. This module class has an exports object. This is where we're going to want to put stuff if we want to get it out of one file and into another. So over here, I'm going to do module.exports equals 1. Right? This function that I've defined up here. And then back in my index.js file, excuse me, I'm going to require this one file, save it to a variable called 1. And then now let's console log what that variable is, and let's see if we can call that as a function. People still typing this?
Yes.
So one in the one.js file is referring to the function.
One more time.
The one after module exports is referring to the function.
Yeah, this function right here. This is a function reference.
Is that all like module exports can only reference a function?
Nope, we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, I'm going to prove to you guys that this works. I'm going to come back to the terminal. I'm going to run node index.js, and boom. When we console log a reference to 1, just to see what it is, we get that it's a function and that it's called 1. And if we call that function, we get that string 1 that we get when we call our function. So it worked. Module is an object that represents our file, our current file. And the exports object within that object is what we do, or what we add to if we want to send stuff from this file, out of this file. That was not very well explained at all, was that? That was not even a moment there. Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah. Do we need to export, do we need to use the same method, same day for exporting the modules that we get from npm install?
That's a good question. I don't think so. I think, well, that's getting into something different that we're not really going to talk about in this course, how to write your own NPM modules. NPM has great documentation on how to do that. But it depends on what you want your function to do. For instance, if you want your function to export a class that you've built, for like a data structure or something like that, then yeah, you'd have to export it. So that when someone is in their own project trying to use your package, they can get that class that you've built. If you're writing a package that someone's supposed to just run, then they'll run that file, your index.js file, and then your index.js file will take care of everything that's supposed to happen when they run that file. That's a great question. Okay. So module.exports is how we export things from this file. So that when we require them in another file, what we're getting is this object. It's important to note that module.exports is an object. But as we've done here, we can overwrite it. So if I come here, I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to come here, and instead I'm going to do type of module.exports. This is going to console log whatever type of module.exports is. And then below that, it's actually console log module.exports itself. Module.exports is an object. So if I'm back here, what I'm doing here is overwriting that object with a function. Let's say I have a function called 2. Console.logs, the string 2. And I want to export both of these out. Module.exports is an object. How do we add things to an object? Does anybody remember from last class? Yeah, dot notation. Dot notation is one way to add things to an object. How do I add something to an object with dot notation? Yeah, so dot 1, in this case, dot 1 would be equal to 1. This is maybe a little confusing. Dot 1 is our key, right? We're adding a key 1 to our exports object. So after this, our object will look like this, where this 1 is this key that we defined here, and this 1 is this function here. Another way that we could do this is like this. Okay. And we'll do the same down here. And then back here in index.js, I'm going to call this numbers. How about that? And I'm going to console log numbers. And then below that, I'm going to call numbers.1 and numbers.2. when I console log numbers, what do people think I'm going to get? Someone want to describe what they think I'm going to get?
An error.
An error. Why am I going to get an error?
I don't know. I didn't touch it, right?
No, I guess you would get quote 1 and 2.
Yeah. Module.exports is an object. When we require a file, what we're getting is this object. So numbers is equal to whatever module.exports is here in this file. So numbers is an object. Specifically an object with two methods. One method called 1 and another method called 2. So when I console log numbers, I'm going to get something like this. We can see that in action. All right.
Just waiting for Greg to ask.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it actually print the like functions it's using now? Like, aren't there cases where you wouldn't want that being printed or logged?
This word function or whatever?
Yeah.
So JavaScript compiles twice. And it compiles first the global scope, and then again when we run it.
Okay.
When it compiles, it sees this require. It goes and gets, the first time it's compiled, it sees this require. It goes and gets this module.exports objects and assigns it here. And because this is in global scope, it looks through it. And as it's looking through it, it finds a function. Well, functions create their own scope. And we might not necessarily need whatever's going on in this function until it gets called. So it's going to ignore it. It's going to note that that's a function, save that in memory so that it knows where it is and where it can get it. And then it's just going to wait for us to call this function before it actually looks at what's inside this function. Does that make sense?
So you have to write module that exports every time you create a function.
Every time that we create a function or an object or any bit of data in here that we want to use here. Module.exports is an object, though, just a vanilla JavaScript object. And we can put anything in objects. Functions, arrays, numbers, strings, anything. So we can put anything, any data type in this exports object, or we can overwrite this exports object with any data and then have it available here. So instead of doing all this, I'll come here and comment these up before I forget. We can do something like this. Instead of doing all this, that goes with me. That one really throws me. Okay. Here I'm taking this array with 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm assigning it to module.exports. So module.exports is no longer an object, it's now this array. And when I console.log numbers here, that's what I'll get. Oops, what happened? Oh, I forgot to save that file, that's why. There we go. Ta-da. Okay. So a really common pattern, maybe one that you'll need to use for your lab, I don't know, is something like this. Equals, let's build a person class. Function, person, name, height, it's all over here so we can see it all. Name and height. What am I doing here?
Setting up a prototype.
Yeah, so this is a constructor function that is going to build out a class of a person for me so that I can create instances of this person class. right? Just like we did in the homework. But then what am I doing here? Module.exports equals my constructor.
It's in the class.
Yeah, so I'm defining a class here, but then here, module.exports is equal to, and then my class. I'm exporting my class. I'm making it available outside of this file. So then if I come back here, I don't know what's going on with my third, you guys. If I come back here, this is going to be equal to my person class. And now I can use that in this file. I think the last time my voice cracked like that, I was like 14 or 15. That's super embarrassing. I am old enough to teach this class, I swear. Person. Yeah.
So are we going to do this like function by function? I mean, like are we going to, or class by class, or how do we like manage the project in terms of like how many functions or classes we're going to put in
One file.
one file?
I would recommend one class per file. And then name the file something related to the class, right? So if this is our person class, then the file would be person.js. That's my recommendation. That's a really good question. One of my favorite quotes about development was from somebody who was my instructor when I was in WDI. And all the designers and project managers are going to shudder when I say this. But the quote is, we're developers, we do what we want. And the meaning of it, yeah, Chris is here like,
Fortunate.
sorry? The meaning is that we can do what we want, right? Do whatever makes sense. I think it makes sense to have one class per file. But if you don't, put all your classes in a single file. We can debate about it, and I will think you're wrong. But it's all right. If that's what you want to do. We're programmers. We do what we want.
So I'm gonna ask another question, which is probably out of the scope of this class, but can I still ask it?
Go for it.
So frameworks such as Angular.
Actually, no. Ask it during office hours. Okay. Okay. All right. So if we're all good on this, you guys are free to go in the lab. Or wait, I should explain the lab for you, actually. Okay.
Wait, real quickly, is that just the best practice for like the name of your variable that you're saving like your required values to be called the same thing? Like I'm noticing like your casing is the same for person.
Here and here. Yeah. It is a best practice first to uppercase the name of a class so that we know that this is not just a regular function or a regular variable and we don't try and use it as such. It is a convention or best practice to use it the same everywhere. So this would, if I were building this out in an actual app, this would be called person.js. Uppercase P would be best to show that it's a class. It would probably be in a folder called models, which when we're building applications, that's what we call classes. So it would be ./models/1 or /person.js. And then here, I would want to uppercase the P as well and give it the same name so that in this file and elsewhere in the application, I know that this is referring to this class that I've defined here. That's a great question. All right, so the lab. So if you go to the repo for this class up on GitHub, actually, or if you've done a git pull upstream master, then in the class for this folder, there's a file called lab.markdown, lab.md, that has the link to the lab.
What in GitHub?
You can come here to GitHub, and click this link right here on our lab to get to the lab. Or in 06 lab folder, there's a file called lab.md that also has a link to the lab.
How do you open it?
Atom or Sublime Text. All right. This is the repository for our lab. For our lab, we're building out the card game of war in full as a command line version. So if you are sick of card games, I'm really sorry. This is its own repository, so it's separate from our class repository. What do you guys think that means you're going to have to do in order to start working on this lab? Fork it, yeah, absolutely. You guys are going to have to fork it. And then you're going to have to clone the fork, do all your work there, push your work up to your fork, and then make a pull request. Your lab is due by the start of next class via pull request. So you'll make the pull request on this repository. Okay? How do we submit our homework?
Pull request.
Pull request. Where do we make the pull request, though? On this project.
Get rid of that project.
Yes, but on this repository. That's the important part. Not the class repository. If you make a pull request on the class repository, you've done two things wrong. One, you've built out your lab inside the class repository. And two, you're submitting your homework or your lab through the class repository, both of which are wrong. This should be a new repository because you're going to fork this one, clone your fork, do all your work there, push your work up to your fork, and then make the pull request here. All right? No overlap with the class repository. Cool. All right. So if you don't remember, you're not exactly sure on the rules for the game of war, I have a quick description here. This is what you'll use to build out your game or your lab. These are the specifications that your lab should meet. The minimum requirements are that you should have an index.js file that I can run with node.index.js and then start the game of war. You should have 2 players, each of whom get a username through the package prompt, which I link to right here. And then gameplay should start, meaning 2 players should each get dealt a hand, which is equal to half the deck, and then play a round. Each round, they put down a card. Whoever's card has the higher value wins and takes both cards. This continues until a player has no cards left. A player with no cards left has lost. And so the game should end. Each round, you should print to the console what the player's cards are and who won, and then how many cards each player now has. Okay? Sounds like a lot, but once you guys get started, it'll break it up into small. If you get stuck, I recommend reading through this section here on getting unstuck with advice on how to think about dealing with a bug or something you're not quite sure how to reason about in code. And then you can obviously ask us questions. There are 3 bonuses. The first is to add more NPM packages to your lab, including, I've got 2 or 3 here that will let you print out your command line output with really pretty colors, and you can get super creative there. One that will clear the output so you can redraw the screen each time and build out like a nice sort of GUI for every round. And then actually the last 3 do that.
So the prompt part is just a username.
Yep.
Starting to just.
Yep. So all this prompt, yeah, that's absolutely right. all we're going to be using this prompt package for is getting the usernames from whoever's running or playing your game. So you run node index.js, prompt will help you ask, what's username number 1? And then someone will type in a string and hit enter. What's username number 2? Someone will type in a string and hit enter. And then you'll build your players and get on with the game. Okay? You guys have the rest of class to work on it. Christine is in the back. I guess I'll sit up here in the front, and y'all can ask us questions. Take breaks. Maybe take a break right now, and then come back to it. And eat a lot of donuts.
I have a question. You installed the first NPM package, NPM package, because of the project. But my project is calling, the next file is called. I know it's a student package and everything on that one, but I'm curious why that doesn't work out.
So it's easy to text.
Oh, this.
Yeah. So,
You said
yeah, just
Are you putting your a different folder? That way you use your files or powder
I have this GA.
that you use separately from.
So I'll put the GA
Six.
Not in the class, but separate.
Yeah.
It should work.
Thanks.
Yes. But if there's an error and it says,
Okay.
yeah. So that makes me feel like that's the process of the package.
So your extension is JSON. Save that.
Man. It feels like it did it. That's better than what I had. As far as it goes. I tried simple. Or, yeah,
There we go.
thank you. So that should, I just have to, you know, but now we have it.
Is that?
Yeah, what's that?
Should you have like extra chargers?
Yeah, you can borrow one from the front desk.
Cool.
We just